Welcome. The title of this video is Matthew 24, and we are going to look at this chapter as an end times timeline. We won't read the whole chapter, just the specifics. Okay, let's start at verse 6. Verse 6 speaks of wars and rumors of wars, but the end is still to come. Verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilences, earthquakes in divers places. Now let's skip to verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. What end is this verse talking about, you ask? The end of the age, the end times, the tribulation. Now look at the Matthew timeline to this point. There are wars, famines, earthquakes, etc. But the next verse, verse 15, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Okay, when does Daniel say this happens? Daniel 9:27, and he shall confirm covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. The word he in this verse is the Antichrist. This happens in the middle of the 7-year tribulation, because the verse says in the midst of the week, which also means 1/7 or 7 years. In the middle of the 7 years, he stops the offering. So he is in power at this time. This also coincides with the Revelation timeline. We know this by Revelation chapter 11, which describes the 2 witnesses preaching from the beginning of the tribulation through 3.5 years until the beast or Antichrist that rises to power kills them in the middle of the tribulation. So again, 3.5 years is half of 7 years, which puts it in the middle of the tribulation at the 7th trumpet. That's when the 2 witnesses are killed. Okay, before we get too far off base, let's get back to the book of Matthew. So now we know the Antichrist rises in the middle of the tribulation. Okay, and that's not to say the person before becoming the Antichrist isn't a prominent political figure or involved in wars before this point, because he doesn't become the Antichrist until Satan enters him. Yes, I know he is a Antichrist. Okay, next, look at verses Matthew 24:16 through 20. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Okay, why does Judea need to flee? 2 reasons. Number 1, let's take a look at the book of Luke for that. Luke 21, verse 20 and 21. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it not depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. Okay, so Jerusalem will be surrounded by armies. That's a pretty good reason to get out. Number 2, look back at Matthew 24:21 and 22. For then shall be great tribulation, such was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Now this verse is not talking about tribulation from God, not God's wrath, but instead from the Antichrist. Also the meaning of except those days be shortened, or no flesh would be saved. It means the Antichrist is killing all Christians as fast as he can. Revelation 13:7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And it means if the Lord did not soon return, then there would be no one to save. No one being the Christians. He doesn't have concern for the ungodly. They will all be destroyed by him. Thus the second coming. That's right, this is when the Lord comes back in the clouds. That's why Judea can flee to the mountains with nothing. The Lord is coming quickly. Just look at the Matthew timeline. Matthew 24:29 through 31. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. The trumpet is the last trumpet, the seventh trumpet of Revelation. Revelation 14:14 describes it. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. Revelation 14 is just after the middle of the tribulation. That's why they can flee to the mountains with nothing. It's only a short time till the Lord himself returns. Okay, what happens to the armies that surround Jerusalem? Revelation 14:17. And another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the winepress, even unto the horse bridles, by the space of 1,600 furlongs. The Lord fights those who come against Jerusalem and defeats them. Okay, that sums up the timeline of Matthew 24. Now, just something you ought to know. Look at Matthew 24, verses 23 through 26. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. These verses are not in the timeline. They are speaking to whoever is reading this book. And this is seen in various places. One reason we know this is because at this point, the Antichrist has already come to power. Revelation 13:8 says, And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So by this verse we know at this point there are no more false Christs and prophets except the Antichrist and his prophet, because everyone except Christians will worship the beast. And we will end this video here. Thank you for watching.